Hello, this is Michael Topper, your Southern Crown instructor for Empowered Meditation. Whether you've ever formally meditated before, you'll find our system of meditation a uniquely powerful and balanced means of calming while invigorating your whole system, of energizing the complement of your ordinary faculties, functions, and personally developed instrumentalities, as well as drawing out dormant potential of your overall being, of which you'd scarcely been aware previously. Whether or not you've ever previously meditated with any other system on a formal basis, you should understand the distinct difference associated with the Southern Crown teaching on empowered meditation. Most available meditative systems are derivations of certain simplified mechanics of the ancient Eastern methodologies. They involve the assumption of a kind of passivity, in which the practitioner is lowered into an entrained brainwave registry hovering around the biofeedback band of the alpha zone. This may be accomplished in the semi-hypnotic way of counting backwards while imagining oneself being let out on a line and dropping into a well-like depth, or procedurally descending a winding staircase, etc. Or such an essentially passive, becalmed condition may be obtained by the popular method of transcendental meditation and its variations, in which one gnaws internally on the monotony of a, quote, mantram or secret word until the appropriate depth state has been achieved. While the Southern Crown meditation empowerment in one of its aspects makes use of a technique superficially similar to that of mantram repetition, the distinct difference is that the Southern Crown teaching furnishes a word that functions as a demonstrable name of power. In the ancient traditions, there were certain words, names, or phrases supposed by their very sonic properties as well as in virtue of their actual reference or encoded designation to possess innate spiritual potency. Such words were respected as being surcharged with a numen or special force which, when vibrated externally or internally, would serve to effectively integrate, align, and therefore gather up the interacting systems and circuits of the being to a higher, resonant level of effective function and whole cognition. Such a word is incorporated in this present meditative teaching. The integral key to its composition invests this special name of power with an intrinsic resonant capacity, most particularly effective in terms of the frontal lobe and its correlated fields, transdimensional centers, and circuits. This means that such a name of power as you are given in this meditation invigorates the very centers of dynamic will, activating the line of the conscious axis most potently and in the most balanced manner. The effectual electrification of the very centers and systems of your being involving the values of will, the dynamic power itself that distinguishes you and makes you a unique self-enforcing spirit of conscious determination and integral direction, demonstrates a principle which characterizes the whole method and informing philosophy of this meditative practice. All the interrelated techniques of this practice correspond to, are in harmony with, and reinforce this essential key, structured into the very vowels and consonants comprising the given name of power that spells the spiritual syllables of this work. All techniques of the Southern Crown empowerment meditation serve to establish a strong, integrally receptive state. Such a state stands in contradistinction to the varieties of induced passivity that characterize the other publicly available meditative practices. Receptivity as a state involves dynamic, alert relaxation, a very energized and poised organization of the interacting systems and currents of the whole being. It is not a passive horizontality which lends itself to the semi-consciousness of trance states. Nor does it produce the common dreamy-eyed internal leakage so characteristic of the Transcendental Meditation school and its variants, wherein one is encouraged to look upon a simple induced fatigue and subsequent drifting into sleep as, quote, transcendence. There is no such leakage in the Southern Crown meditation technique. There is no passive vulnerability, but an alert, relaxed awareness, energized and intensified as function of a volitional internal vigilance. It is through the specific reorganization of the mind-body processes consonant with such alert receptivity that the real states, conscious planes, and higher dimensions of being may be effectively polarized into alignment with the surcharged coordinates of attention. It is through familiarization with this redefined state of your mind-body presence that you will come to know the tremendous difference and will understand the cues in the real introduction of progressed stages of conscious development. We may hear some inquire already, on the basis of past information circulated in the first place by teachings and teachers as rationalization for mediocre results, whether the dynamic energization characterizing the Southern Crown technique isn't, quote, dangerous, whether any meditation method which consists of manifest, tangible, energetic effects and a real intensification, as well as relaxation, of the being, doesn't court the problem of, quote, premature opening of the spiritual esoteric centers, etc. On the contrary, the meditation methods which propagandize in this way, and that seem by comparison so innocuous, their propaganda making just such an innocuous ineffectuality and apparent virtue, are in fact the dangerous practices. It is owing to the general popularized, quote, information stemming from these methods that so much trancing out seems to have taken possession of mass consciousness, why such a startling number of ordinary people have suddenly become the ego-inflationary channelers of so-called higher dimensional consciousness we hear so much about. It is the induced, randomly flotational passivity of such apparently innocuous methods that has rendered the high vulnerability, the virtually involuntary susceptibility to cross-plane intrusion we have been educated to accept as a natural consequence of the, quote, interest in us taken by benign beings of the higher dimensions as we approach the fateful Aquarian frontier. There has been scarce responsible education to the critical understanding that the purpose of meditation is not the diversion of the consciousness of the meditator into operating as a, quote, channel. There has been scant education to the important knowledge that, as a function of the necessary stratification and filtrate polarization of the various dimensions of being with respect to each other, there can be very little numerically in the way of genuinely high or valuable channeling, since the real operative proximity of the majority consciousness of this present physical dimension lies on a plane with the lower extra-dimensional types and states of conscious being. Swift connection or a gratuitous plug-in to an all-too-eager entity consciousness munificently introducing itself as the, quote, enlightened one, etc., is not a sudden confirmation of your own spiritual worthiness, doubtless established through many past lives of good deeds, etc. It is a clear sign that the nascent passivity into which most ill-conceived methodologies allow one to immediately plunge is not at all compatible with one's whole being development and mind-body-spirit integration, but rather widely invites the peremptory assertion of an unknown factor from some other field into the awaiting blank space. The enervated passivity in which most such meditative or esoteric practices leave you, including those that would have you relying on the exteriority of pyramid devices, psionic generators, and so on, is the truly dangerous state of contingency that renders a random, unpredictable, and ungovernable susceptibility to other-world intrusion, and at best, such middling methods induce a kind of temporary poise or lull-like quiescence through the systems that amounts to a state of quasi-balance established at the ordinary low level of mind-body interaction. For they simply do not possess the keys of energizing, activating, rousing, and mutually reinforcing the centers and circuits of the being so as to enable them to establish a higher form of integration and harmony at an awakened level of operation. They do not dynamize the systems into an integral alignment, a coherent unification with and through the conscious axis, so as to coordinate them in conformal harmony with an awakened and unified, powerful personal will. The Southern Crown Empowerment Meditation is therefore safe in the strictest sense of the word, for its volitional emphasis and quality of receptive alertness forms an innate protection, an intrinsic reinforcement of the faculties and powers of one's own being against the type of unwanted sidetrack or intrusion otherwise invited by the uninformed horizontal passivity of so-called meditative consciousness. And it is sound in the most important sense that it demonstrably works to establish those qualities, powers, and values of the being which the practice of meditation is traditionally and correctly supposed to establish. That is, the direct awakening of your own forces, faculties, and conscious dimensions, fortified against the overwhelming, quote, superiority of another being's transdimensional advantage. Here, then, are the elements of the Southern Crown meditation practice you'll be using. There is, first of all, the important dynamic of charger breathing. With the preliminary use of charger breathing, you will alert all faculties and functions of your being directly, vivify the life force through which they are operated and organized, and immediately key the polarized currents and multidimensional circuits of your total form to a more life-positive and integral value of functioning based on a redistributed ratio in the processing of positive and negative energies, physically identified as a rebalanced ratio of oxygen to carbon dioxide in the bloodstream, etc. Secondly, there is the third eye meditation practice, placing your attention and the volitional force of your concentration on the third eye center. You will be using your stepped-up energy and stimulated electrochemical current force to amplify the energy field surrounding and composing the center of mind and will itself. This will lead in a rapid and balanced manner to an unfolding of the coded energy patterns belonging to the plexuses, glands, and centers of the crown and midbrain. It will stimulate the pattern repolarization of the complex electrochemical lattice of interlocking grids, organizing the circuits and systems of the third eye, thereby integrating a more coherent and direct trans-dimensional alignment of fields and forces in conformance with the upward or positive flow of will. At the same time, such repolarization involves an upgraded multidimensional transform of the chemical activities conducted by the master gland of the pituitary in conjunction with the pineal, regulated by the hypothalamus. With the introduction of such direct, deep field participation through realignment of the centers and circuits, there is ultimately produced a modified glandular activity involving compounds of a more subtle adaptive chemistry affecting the range and degree of immunological efficiency and furnishing the hormonal keys uniquely fitted through trans-dimensional patterning to unlock the energy potential of the plexiform centers containing dormant faculties and hidden creative forces. Third, there is the preliminary technique of the blue dot visualization, followed by the incorporation of a more advanced technique in which one practices visualization of the powerful, protective, and integrative five-pointed star. Such a visualization technique, practiced in conjunction with meditation at the third eye center, serves procedurally to induce a necessary transformation and realignment in the characteristic polarization flows and ratios of interaction between the hemispheres, lobes, and strata of the mind-brain and its correlated axial centers of the extended mind-body system. Such visualization requires practice in the steady and full image picturing of a geometric form. In the first stages of practice, the blue dot. In the succeeding stages, the pentagrammic five-pointed star. In the practice of imaginatively visualizing the five-pointed star at the third eye center, for example, you are exercising the left brain faculties of focal and linear cognition, sequential mentality, as in the procedural drawing of the figure from the bottom left-hand ray and around in a continuous developmental line, and analytical perception. But you are simultaneously exercising the right brain faculty of gestalt, or a whole image perception, in the concomitant effort of retaining the progressively rendered image in all its successively built-up lines, angles, and segments. In this way, the attention to discrete and additive details, in conjunction with holistic retention and integration of the parts in an effort of comprehensive imaging, cultivates a facultative re-emphasis, drawing the value of attention and identity away from exclusive fixation on left brain reductive modes and into alignment with a transformed ratio of function in which the right brain faculty of holistic or integral perceptions cognitions is drawn forward, the left brain faculty rendered increasingly subordinate to it. This comprises what is actually an indispensable step in the transformative alignment of current processes and electromagnetic circuitry involved in any real modification of perceptual or cognitive modes. If you would behold a truly transformed world, one that is demonstrably, tangibly, and perceptibly unific rather than simply whole on a theoretical basis as an inductive conclusion of the piecemeal thinking faculties, then you must do real work in transforming the instruments through which any such world comes to you. The shift in emphasis between the hemispheric functions of the mind-brain balancing the operative ratio in favor of the right brain holistic faculties is also indispensable for a separate, if related, reason. Ordinarily, the mind-brain faculties are trained by the consensual processes to which everyone is adapted into a negative polarization alignment. Through such an alignment, the multidimensional processes of the mind-body faculties are organized into a compound focal lock-in of the coordinate circuits and centers, establishing a downward flow of emphasis in which the higher cortical abstract faculties, associated in themselves with spiritual or numinous cognitions, are drawn in subordinative reference toward the psychic emotional centers of the limbic system and midbrain. And both these interlocked systems are hierarchically subordinated in functional deference to the patterns of vital instinctual survivalism, the power drive, and ritual reproductive cycles encoded in the basal brain lobes of the so-called reptilian hindbrain, the R-complex. The downward flow in the current cycles and systems of the mind-body polarization alignment is, in the general format of patriarchal culture, established through a shunting of emphasis across the horizontal axis of the mind-brain onto the left hemisphere, verbal analytic faculty, so as to create an operative ratio functionally recessing the gestalt or whole cognition character of the right hemisphere. In a spiritual repolarization and alignment of the mind-body being established to the positive axis, the vertical order of deferential reference and subordination is functionally reversed, so that, in practical terms, the vital instinctual processes are subordinated to the systems through which psychic numen and emotional, symbolically surcharged meaning predominates, and both are subordinated according to their respective orientations in deferential reference toward the abstract cognitive faculties of the cortex, in themselves mediating spiritual or conscious values. In order for this repolarized positive circuit flow to be generated, it is necessary first of all that the habit patterns of the being established through the repetitive practice of will force exhibit a tendency of entrainment in the direction of whole cognition, supportive of such spiritual orientation. It is for this reason, for example, that the most ancient and complete spiritual esoteric traditions, such as those of Tibet in the East and the Pythagorean-based mystery schools in the West, place strong emphasis on visualization practices employing gestalt-patterned, geometric, or mandalic imagery. The wisdom of such teachings lay in the implicit recognition that any positive repolarization and alignment of the mind-body axis could only be accomplished through the application of will force in actively imaging and concentrating upon those patterns conducive to rebalanced brain hemispheres, or reorganization of the elemental ratios in the traditional description, for it is only in this way that the memory circuits and positively promoted tendencies flowing from the internal mandate of the being may be mapped, functionally impressed, and operatively integrated into the coaxial circuitries through which a repolarized flow is supposed to be induced. Such wisdom necessarily recognized that no durable tracks or directional codes indispensable to prefiguring and priming the desired polarization alignment could ever be forthcoming from the temporary induction of subtle energy flows proceeding from such techniques as the bestowing of Shaktipat, etc., that is, the sometimes electrifying transmission of positive surplus or overflow energy from a guru or Siddha figure. For any such technique, while having the advantage of momentarily alerting the low-level integral circuitries of the subject to the tangible and perceivable existence of a higher power, a more intensified degree of potential whole integration, exhibits in the long run the distinct disadvantage of behaving like water poured through a sieve. For the purely passive condition of receipt assumed by the subject hardly comprises a vessel of sufficient integrity or caulking, sealed by the cohesive substance of volition or positive intent reinforced by personal application and concentrated practice, to be able to retain and conserve the inpouring energies so as to amplify them within and fix them in duplication of the pattern flow of the exemplary initiating circuitry. Thus your Southern Crown meditative practice, incorporating a practical stage of third eye visualization, distills the most powerful and balanced insights of the wisdom tradition, which can never be simply superannuated by some newer word on the subject, which can never be replaced or formally substituted by an up-to-date knowledge, a techno-advance incorporating the latest monitoring devices or a precipitous gizmo. Finally, the Southern Crown meditation practice furnishes you with the name of power, through the inwardly repeated sound vehicle of which you will establish a progressive concentration, organization, alignment, and unitive reinforcement of the faculties and cognitive centers that integrate the very eye-sense of the subject. At a progressively higher level of mind-body unity and coordinate integration, you will find the resources for acting and living more effectively, with more positive and productive perception in creative relation with the physical world, and you will find yourself as well spontaneously furnished with the means, accorded a whole-being condition, to experience, investigate, and enjoy illuminated states of higher mind, of stable psychic harmony, and ultimate consciousness. We will begin the empowered meditation practice of Southern Crown with the standard injunction to find a quiet, comfortable place to sit, preferably in a straight-back chair to keep the spine comfortably aligned. Never do these meditation practices lying down. First, we will teach you the basic power breath in the form of charger breathing, which may already be familiar to those who've seen the free, ongoing monthly instruction furnished through the Southern Crown publication New Thunderbird Chronicle. Whether it's already familiar to you or not, practice along with me as I rehearse with you step by step the proper performance of the charger breath. Remember, do all breathing exercises sitting down the first few days of practice. Use a comfortable chair, preferably straight back, so that your spine is nice and straight at all times during the exercise. Your feet should be flat on the floor, hands resting in lap or on knees. Your head should be straight, facing frontally. Clothes should be loose or none, and all belts, buttons, or zippers about the abdomen should be loosened for maximum comfort and abdominal expansion. Fix your gaze on a point straight ahead. This is an important step to begin with because it helps you concentrate on the breath without distraction. Later, when you do the breathing randomly throughout your day while walking, etc., this step may, of course, be eliminated. Even though the whole charger breath, as taught here, is to be used specifically for your formal seated meditation practice, it functions wonderfully as a general means of empowered relaxation to which you can resort at any time. The more accustomed you become to doing this powerful charger breath, the more you will succeed in pushing back the threshold of possible hyperventilation so that you'll be able to resort to the breath practice randomly, day or night, while sitting, standing, or walking. It is uniquely a maximally potent and convenient technique which can be used extemporaneously under almost any circumstance, on almost any occasion, while grocery shopping, doing the dishes, watching television, etc. Only one necessary caution: don't do charger breathing in your car while driving, owing to the toxic fumes that circulate through the cab of the car, especially while on the freeway or in heavy traffic. Otherwise, the charger breath is not only perfectly safe to use on all occasions, but it is a uniquely handy recourse, employable without strain or exertion, which serves immediately to charge you up, invigorate your systems, and vivify your general powers of attention, awareness, and concentration. It can make you feel better when you're feeling only moderately good, mediocre, or worse. It can aid in recovery from illness, and of course it can make a bright overall feeling tone even brighter. Here then is the whole charger breath. Do it along with me. Use this portion of the tape occasionally to practice the breath by itself, to make certain that you're continuing to do it correctly. Now, inhale deeply, strongly, even fiercely through the nostrils. Inhale just as deeply and powerfully as you possibly can. Inhale all the way till you've gotten every last possible drop of air. Without holding or pausing, immediately exhale strongly, evenly, and thoroughly. This is a very strong, powerful breath. There's nothing timid or halfway about it. This is not the slow, quiet, and gentle breath you may be used to or come to expect in association with the ordinary yogic techniques. This is more like a Tibetan bomber, a full-throttle samurai snort. In order to perform it properly, you should go so far as to scrunch up your face, actually wrinkle your nose into a kind of ferocious expression similar to those stylized masks of Japanese no. With your no nose properly crinkled and pumping, you ought to look very much like a cartoon bull, snorting and blowing the bellows of those nasal wings as if you could lift full sail by tacking into the wind. Now, in your best cartoon bull fashion, take 3 successive charger breaths. Remember, as you concentrate on the point in front of you, to make each breath as strong and even and thorough as possible, both in and out. The expiration of each breath should be done as thoroughly as the inspiration, so that you are forcefully expelling the very last drop of air. As you do these breaths in succession, you should, if you're doing it properly, sound like a freight train bearing down the track. Don't forget, this is a very powerful breath, not at all a timid or faint-hearted breath. Now we're going to perform a succession of 3 powerful charger breaths once again. We're going to inhale strongly and sharply, thoroughly through the nose, then exhale with similar vigor, evenness, and maximum expulsion of air also through the nose, except this time on the last repetition of the charger breath, the exhalation is to be performed through the mouth. To do this correctly, the lips should be compressed, leaving only a very slight gap, virtually imperceptible to vision, through which the air of the exhalation is allowed to escape. This has the effect of greatly slowing the last exhalation. The use of such scarcely pursed lips regulates the flow of air much more dramatically and voluntaristically than can be done by breathing out through the nose. There are 2 basic ways of allowing this last exhalation of the series to take place. The breath may be expelled by a kind of deliberate pressure, that is, actually blowing out through the slight gap of the lips, or it may be allowed to ease away as if on its own, the air being leaked very slowly and evenly by the natural contraction of the abdomen and consequent deflation of the diaphragm without any deliberate blowing on the part of the practitioner. This last breath makes the final series exhalation especially slow, and it is only when the escaping air has left the lungs in their normally relaxed state that deliberate expulsion of the remaining carbon dioxide in the air sacs is called for, finishing off the final series breath with a distinct pressurized puff. It is recommended that the practitioner favor the method of deliberately, though slowly, blowing the air through the lips on the last exhalation, at the beginning of each whole charger breath session, but that, during the numerical increase of breath clusters and series repetitions in which the breath is performed, the practitioner should gradually switch to the much slower method of allowing the air to simply leak out the tiny labial opening, like the scarcely perceptible leak of air from a minutely punctured balloon on the automatic deflation of the diaphragm. The reason for this progression has to do with the greater comfort experienced while relaxing the breath out of your system. The more saturated in surplus oxygen the system becomes. The further into your charger breath session, the more deeply you will have succeeded in altering the ratio of oxygen to carbon dioxide in the blood in favor of oxygen. Therefore, the less likelihood there is of feeling that faint panic for air that might otherwise be felt if you tried leaking the last series breath at the beginning of your session. Remember, always breathe out through the mouth only on the last exhalation of the given series. For example, the 3-breath series, in nose, out nose, in nose, out nose, in nose, out mouth, slowly, evenly, and thoroughly. End of round. There is no count, as in many breathing exercises, so don't worry about measuring the inhalations and exhalations against each other according to some standardized ratio, such as 2:4, etc. Now, perform your succession of 3 powerful charger breaths. Go ahead and begin. Remember that last exhalation should proceed slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through scarcely pursed lips. Now let's try a succession of 3 powerful charger breaths once again. Remember, on the last exhalation, the air should proceed slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through scarcely pursed lips. Let's perform one more series of 3 powerful charger breaths before proceeding to the meditation practice proper. Go ahead and begin. Remember that last exhalation proceeds slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through scarcely pursed lips. Now you should be sitting in your comfortable chair, feet flat on the floor, hands resting in lap or on knees. You should be facing frontally, your clothes should be loose or none, and all belts, buttons, or zippers about the abdomen should be loosened for maximum comfort and abdominal expansion. Now close your eyes. We are going to locate the so-called third eye center. Draw your attention up to an imaginary point or locale within the region of the forehead, above the brows and about 1.5 inches deep. This is where your attention will fixate in a relaxed manner as you do the charge-up breath exercises and the subsequent meditation visualization. This spot of the third eye center is not objectively precise. Don't worry if you feel you may not be pinpointing it accurately. After some practice, your attention will come naturally and comfortably to rest in congruence upon a familiar zone above and behind the brows. In focusing interiorly upon this point, be sure to use the flow of your attention, which belongs to mind and will, rather than shift or strain the actual ocular or facial muscles in an attempt to physically target the imagined third eye sight. After fixing that sight with the force of will and attention, you may discover that in the process of concentration your eyes tend to roll up naturally under closed lids as if faithfully following the line of attention. This is perfectly permissible and needn't be corrected for. The eyes and their muscle groups are relaxed in doing this, and at this point simply serve to reinforce and stabilize the overall flow and fixation of the force of attention through the whole being. Now that you have located the third eye center imaginatively within the forehead, you are going to charge it up with 3 good strong charger breaths. Go ahead and begin. Remember that last exhalation should always proceed slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through the mouth. You should be sitting comfortably, relaxed, spine straight, shoulders relaxed, facial muscles relaxed, eye muscles relaxed, arms and legs relaxed. Your attention should be fixed alertly at the imaginatively located third eye center within the region of the forehead. With your attention remaining at the third eye center, you are going to charge that center up with 3 good strong charger breaths once again. Go ahead and begin. Remember that last exhalation should always proceed slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through scarcely pursed lips. In charging the third eye center with the charger breaths, you are not simply drawing physical oxygen into the lungs. The breath current also carries a subtle charge of energy which follows channels other than just the physical. These channels are interior networks functioning as rhythmic, polarized flows of regulatory force. The subtle energy of the breath current is drawn downward on the inhalation to charge the vital storage battery of the abdomen and simultaneously upward to charge the third eye center. Now then, charge the third eye center with 3 good strong charger breaths once again. Go ahead and begin. Remember that last exhalation should always proceed slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through the mouth. Remain with your eyes closed, your attention fixed at the third eye center. Your spine should be nice and straight. Your facial muscles relaxed, eye muscles relaxed, shoulders, arms, abdomen, and legs thoroughly relaxed. We are now going to proceed to the visualization portion of your meditative practice, in which you will visualize a minute electric blue dot situated at the third eye center. Visualize then, if you will, a brilliant but minute electric blue dot situated in the middle of the third eye zone. Visualize this dot as vividly, as clearly, as stably, and as precisely as you can. Different people engaged in the several sections of this whole meditation practice find different portions of it relatively easy or relatively difficult. Many find that the visualization phase of this practice is most difficult for them. By the same token, some proclaim that it is quite easy and comes naturally. If you are amongst those who find it difficult, don't despair. The important aspect of this practice is your intent. The effort you invest in this phase of your meditative practice, regardless the apparent returns on that effort and the evidence of a successful imagistic yield, registers with the higher dimensions of your being and consciousness. Those higher aspects of your being take the cue from the force, power, and consistency of your intent, the sheer application of your will, and carry the informing value contained in the visualized symbol into dimensions of activity and realization of which you may not be consciously aware, and which, in their positive transformative effect, bear no proportional relation whatever to the possible superficial success of your actual interior visualization. So do the best you can. Visualize the shape of the minute dot and its color as vividly, stably, and completely as possible. The higher phases of your own multidimensional being, the superconscious dimensions of the Oversoul presence, will receive the imprint of the effort favorably and respond by incubating the qualities and values of the rebalanced hemispheres, the vivification of the higher zones and faculties, etc., contained in seed form in the symbols of practice. Concentrate then on your image of the electric blue dot situated at the third eye center. Visualize it as brilliant electric blue, minute, stable, intensely radiating. We're now going to charge this visualized image of the electric blue dot with 3 successive charger breaths. Go ahead and begin. Remember that last exhalation always proceeds slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through scarcely pursed lips. If, on the expulsion of that last possible drop of carbon dioxide, you feel the need for air, replenish your oxygen with a normal inhalation through the nose. Charge up the vivid image of your electric blue dot once again with 3 good, strong charger breaths. Go ahead and begin. Remember that last exhalation always proceeds slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through scarcely pursed lips. We are going to take 3 strong charger breaths once again. With each breath, we will enhance the light and intensity of our minute visualized electric blue dot, progressively expanding it as if it were swelling with energy and power, until, upon the 3rd breath, it shall have expanded in size to an electric blue circle, completely filling the interior region of the 3rd eye center, above the brows and behind the forehead. This portion of the visualization practice is an exercise in imaginative regulation. You should visualize the expansion of the dot into the brilliant circular form as smoothly and evenly as possible with each successive breath. Once again, this may not come particularly easy to some students of this practice. Do the best you can. Some students suggest that they feel the dot or expanded radiant electric blue disk more than actually see it with the eye of imagination. This is fine, but remember that this is specifically a visualization exercise. Practice seeing the dot, inwardly perceiving its vivid electric blue presence expanding procedurally into its area-filling disc shape. When not in this formal eyes-closed meditation practice, you should rehearse your inward visualization exercise by painting a bright blue dot and similar disc on a piece of paper. You should stare at these forms one at a time, absorb their shape and color. Alternately close your eyes and try to see them inwardly. Another effective method of securing the imagistic powers of your imaginative visualization faculty, which may presently be relatively dormant, is to paint an orange dot and disc on a clean white sheet of paper. Stare at either image for a minute or 2, and then either shift your gaze open-eyed to a blank white wall, or close your eyes immediately and shift your attention up to the inner 3rd eye center, even pressing your eyelids together as you do so. In either case, the orange dot or disc should now be exhibiting its complementary blue color to the interiority of your vision as a lingering afterimage. Go ahead then and take 3 good strong charger breaths, imaginatively visualizing the progressive vivified expansion of the dot into a full brilliant electric blue disc. Go ahead and begin. Remember that last exhalation should always proceed slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through scarcely pursed lips. You should now be visualizing the dot expanded into a radiant, energy-filled disc completely covering the interior 3rd eye zone. Charge the brilliant electric blue disc with 3 good strong charger breaths once again. Go ahead and begin. Remember that last exhalation should always proceed slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through scarcely pursed lips. Now we are going to charge the radiant blue disc imaginatively visualized at the 3rd eye center with 3 good strong charger breaths once again. Only now we will reverse the procedure by which the dot progressively expanded into the disc by methodically reducing the disc with each successive breath until, upon the last breath, it has been restored to its original form as the minute, brilliant electric blue dot situated like a small scintillant pearl or bead of water at the third eye center. Visualize the restored electric blue dot as clearly, stably, and intensely as possible. Remember, this is an exercise in imaginative regulation. We are training the faculties of visualization to inwardly see an imagined form or shape, to perceive it as it responds to our intent or energized will force in methodically expanding or contracting in size, etc. Now then, visualize the progressive reduction of the disc to its original minute form as the electric blue dot with each successive charge or breath. Go ahead and begin. Remember that last exhalation should always proceed slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through the mouth. You should now be sitting, eyes closed, spine nice and straight, head facing frontally and squarely, arms, legs, shoulders, abdomen, and facial muscles relaxed, the retained image of the electric blue dot imaginatively projected in the field of your inward attention at the third eye center. Remember, this is a practice in creatively visualizing. It is an exercise which positively employs the faculty of imagination. It is possible that, as you progress, real images, colors, shapes, geometries, patterns, and forms will appear very vividly to your inward gaze at the third eye center, and these will not have come at the willed bidding of your imaginative faculty. You may even perceive inwardly an actual electric blue dot at the third eye center, which neither comes or goes at the strict bidding of your imagination, but which may seem to shift around, disappear, fade, or reappear as you try to focus on it with your inner gaze, regardless whether this or any other such light, form, or colored pattern appears at the locus of the third eye visualization center. During the formal phase of the practice, in which you are supposed to be creatively visualizing the electric blue dot through the power of will, you should never simply abandon your deliberate imagizing of the dot for what seems like the much easier method of simply gazing at the real one as it appears at the third eye center. Whatever color, shape, or form spontaneously appears at the third eye center, you should always persist during the formal phase of visualization practice in retaining the willed, imaginative image of the electric blue dot or disc. Now, take 3 good strong charger breaths, and with each successive breath, imagine that the inner electric blue dot fades progressively until, on the final exhalation of the last breath, it is imaginatively perceived to extinguish completely, like an expired blue candle flame. Go ahead and begin. Remember, the last exhalation should always proceed slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through scarcely pursed lips. You should now be sitting, eyes closed, spine straight, arms, legs, shoulders, and abdomen relaxed, your attention suitably fixed at the inner third eye center, without any projection whatsoever from the faculty of creative visualization. The visualization portion of your meditation practice is over, and will only be called upon again at the formal close of the practice. Thus, you can see that you use the creative visualization of the electric blue dot to open and close your meditative practice. Now, your faculty of attention is staring at the blank space of the inner third eye center, which may or may not be practically filled with entoptic patterns, lights, or so-called phosphene phenomena, but which is empty of all deliberate imaginative visualization in any case. Maintaining your attention, as always, high in the third eye center during the complete course of this formal meditative practice, You will now be taught the audible concentration technique employing the inward silently repeated name of power. The name of power is Sa, Da, Ra, Ku. That's Sa, S-A, Da, D-A, Ra, R-A, Ku, K-U. Sa, Da, Ra, Ku. Sa, Da, Ra, Ku. Sa, Da, Ra, Ku. It is important that you conceive your study and practice through this tape as an initiation. A true initiation carries responsibility for the student of the practice, and a primary, traditional, and always necessary responsibility of the student is to cherish, guard, and protect the name of power, never telling anyone else this precious name, nor at any time transferring these taped instructions to another who has not conscientiously taken the obligations of such an initiation upon him or herself by personally and formally requesting this tape from its legitimate source of dispensation. Therefore, the present bestowing of this name of power should be regarded by you as a serious initiation responsibly assumed. The name of power, Sa, Da, Ra, Ku, is now to be repeated continuously, slowly, evenly, and strongly in complete silence and inwardness with the imaginative side of the auditory faculty for the remainder of the meditative practice. Remember, the name of power is to be repeated from this point on without interruption the duration of every practice, so that, regardless what other instructions may subsequently be given, the inward repetition of and concentration upon the name of power is carried on uninterruptedly in conjunction with all further instruction. Now, concentrate your attention behind closed eyes at the third eye center. Repeat the name of power, Sa, Da, Ra, Ku, slowly, evenly, and deliberately into the third eye center, as it were. Feel very strongly as if you are projecting the name of power in the audible inwardness of your resonant verbal mentality on a stream of uninterrupted concentration toward the third eye center. Sa, Da, Ra, Ku. Sa, Da, Ra, Ku. Sa, Da, Ra, Ku. You will continue to concentrate the inward repetition of the name of power very consciously, intentionally, toward the focal zone of the third eye center. All other thoughts of the ordinary interior monologue, your characteristic and compulsive roof-brain chatter, are to be deliberately stilled and replaced by this single stream of uninterrupted concentration. No matter how compulsively, how insistently the accustomed inner voice of the associative flow belonging to the interior monologue tends to break in, interrupt, subtly reinstate itself without notice, the object of this key phase of practice is to consciously, deliberately, and with will reassert the primacy of the name of power repetition, returning with redoubled strength and intensity of concentrative effort just as soon as it is noticed that the mind has been overrun again with the associative, compulsively talkative self-chatter of the interior tape loop. Absorb all random, stray, or persistent thinking in the deliberate, volitional repetition of the name of power. Sa, Da, Ra, Ku. Sa, Da, Ra, Ku. Sa, Da, Ra, Ku. Now randomly charge up the third eye center with a few good strong charger breaths whenever you feel like it, or whenever you feel the need for the reinforcement supplied by the vivifying and even intoxicating effect of the power breathing regimen. Remember, the last exhalation should escape slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through the mouth. By occasionally invigorating the mind and concentrative faculties with several strong charger breaths, you will help augment and intensify the available power of will that enforces the required degree of integrative focus to be employed at the third eye center. Remember that last exhalation is released slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through scarcely pursed lips. In concentrating through the force of will and attention at the third eye center, energizing the flow of that concentration with a unified mental force ordered through the one-pointed intensity of the name repetition, and empowering the integrative force of that repetition and focal concentration with resort to random charger breathing, you will be, as it were, employing all the concerted powers and instrumentalities of the psyche to knock at the door of the third eye. You may conceive that the third eye is the door, the ingress to higher spiritual dimensions, potencies, and perceptions of the whole being, and you are knocking vigorously on that door with the proper identification pass. Sooner or later, the polarized electromagnetic guardians or sentinels of that gate must let you through, and in the swinging open of the doors of that gate, the energy networks and coordinate systems of the being effectually regulated from the locus of the third eye must change in their alignments and codes of harmonic interaction as well. Continue then to concentrate at the third eye center and repeat the name of power, randomly charging up with several good strong charger breaths. Remember that last exhalation should always pass slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through scarcely pursed lips, through the tiny labial aperture. You should devote from at least 5 to 10 minutes of your formal meditation practice a day to this phase in which you feature such a strict stream of concentration, without visual supplementation and without the system of breath retention we are about to teach. When you become quite used to and comfortable with your meditative practice, you should increase the length of this phase of practice to 15 or 20 minutes up to a half an hour. Now you will learn the next major key of your empowered meditation practice. Still seated comfortably with eyes closed, attention inwardly focused at the third eye center, and, as always, repeating the name of power slowly, evenly, and strongly into that center, you will take 3 good strong charger breaths. But on the inhalation of the third breath, you will hold it, locking your throat so that the air does not escape. This breath retention is to be done at the maximum stroke of the inhalation when no more oxygen can be taken in. You will hold this breath for a count of 7, then exhale slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through the mouth. You may take a compensatory breath or 2 afterward to replenish your oxygen supply. In counting the hold of 14 beats, you should measure the length of each count in terms of the standard formula for counting off seconds, that is, 1 100, 2 100, 3 100, etc. If the counting interferes with your inward concentration upon Sa-Da-Ra-Ku, the name of power, you should try to synchronize repetition of the name of power with a subtle count on the fingers. If you can't count on the fingers and maintain repetition of the name of power, it is permissible to suspend repetition of the name of power just temporarily until the hold count is completed. As you become more practiced and proficient in this phase, you should be able to do the hold count, no matter how long a breath retention count you've worked up to, and still be capable of sustaining the simultaneous or synchronized repetition of the name of power. Go ahead then and take 3 good strong charger breaths, holding the third inhalation for a count of 7. Upon the 7th count, slowly, evenly, and thoroughly exhale through the mouth. Go ahead and begin. 1 100, 2 100, 3 100, 4 100, 5 100, 6 100, 7 100. Release the retained breath slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through the mouth, through scarcely pursed lips. Go ahead now and take 3 good strong charger breaths and hold the third inhalation for a count of 14, or as far up to 14 as you can manage. Upon the 14th count, slowly, evenly, and thoroughly exhale through the mouth. Go ahead then, take 3 good strong charger breaths and hold it for a count of 14. Go ahead and begin. One 100, 2 100, 3 100, 4 100, 5 100, 6 100, 7 100, 8 100, 9 100, 10 100, Sadaraku, 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 Sadaraku. Exhale that last retained breath slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through the mouth. Now I'd like you to take 3 good strong charger breaths once again, holding the third inhalation for a count of 21, or as far up to 21 as you can manage. Then upon the 21st count, slowly, evenly, and thoroughly exhale through the mouth. Go ahead, take 3 good strong charger breaths, hold it for a maximum count of 21. Go ahead. Sadaraku, 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 Sadaraku. You may release the last retained breath slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through the mouth. You may take a compensatory breath or two afterward to replenish your oxygen supply. Now we will increase the number of charger breaths and work up again the escalating rungs of the breath retention ladder, going from our low count of 14 to a practice high count of 21. Go ahead then and take 7 good strong charger breaths, holding the third inhalation for a count of 7. Upon the 7th count, slowly, evenly, and thoroughly exhale through the mouth. Go ahead then and take 7 good strong charger breaths, holding the third inhalation for a count of 7. Begin. Sadaraku, 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 Sadaraku. Remember that last exhalation should proceed slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through the mouth. Now I'd like you to take 7 good strong charger breaths, holding the third inhalation for a count of 14, or as far up to 14 as you can manage. Upon the 14th count, slowly, evenly, and thoroughly exhale through the mouth. Go ahead then and take 7 good strong charger breaths, holding for a count of 14. Begin. Sadaraku, 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 sadaraku. Remember, always allow that last exhalation to pass slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through scarcely pursed lips. Now then, we'll take another 7 good strong charger breaths, and we'll hold the third inhalation for a count of 21, or as far up to 21 as you can manage. Upon the 21st count, you will slowly, evenly, and thoroughly exhale through the mouth. Go ahead then and take 7 good strong charger breaths and hold it for a count of 21. Begin. Sadaraku, 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 sadaraku. Remember, always allow that last exhalation to escape slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through the mouth. The practice of breath retention serves several important functions. Science and medicine, first of all, have observed through studies of the meditative function itself that suspension of the breath has a very beneficial effect on the rhythm entrainment of the heart and related mechanical, bioelectric, and chemical components of the autonomic nervous networks, their corresponding plexuses and glandular centers. It has been observed that under ordinary conditions of breathing, pattern and adjustment to the common low-level coordinate functions of the system centers and their corresponding cognitive programs, the aortic backwash through the pumping heart ventricles sets up what is known as a destructive interference pattern. Such a pattern conditions the interrelated functions of all the systems and networks of the mind-body being, and ultimately adjusts the total operative current of the subconscious or autonomic processes in relation to the conscious axis. Destructive interference patterns limit the optimal harmony at which the systems can mutually adjust, integrate, and interact, so that the ordinary breathing rhythms attune the heart pulsations to a relatively low level of overall coordinate harmony. In the case of breath suspension, however, another and more harmonious process is established. Breath suspension may be of 2 basic types. There is the practice of breath retention, as taught here, or the complementary process of oxygen saturation, which also accompanies breathing of the type taught here, and which is characterized by prolonged gaps in which the more efficient overall integrity and economy of the vivified systems, coupled to the reordered ratio of emphasis favoring oxygen to carbon dioxide in the bloodstream, makes breathing for a time simply unnecessary. Such forms of breath suspension induce the measured interval of a suspended rhythm in the aortic pulsation that subtly adjusts the beat to lock into a constructive interference pattern, to which the other mechanical, electromagnetic, and biochemical systems become entrained by resonant harmonics. Second, the held-in phase in the practice of breath retention causes the subtle twining breath currents that run parallel with and crisscross the vertical axis of the spine to lock in at the spinal base, fusing their polarized energies into a unified flow into and up along the spinal axis itself. In this way, the spinal axis and cerebral systems are directly energized and become progressively accustomed to the pattern memory rhythms of an intensified vital flow, an electrical vivification of the cables, structures, and lobes associated with the volitional and conscious system itself. In this way, the more harmonious, integrative, and economic rhythms established through the meditative process serve a stepped-up level of vitalization, promoting a progressively ongoing condition of alert receptivity, not a condition of passive and enervated or devitalized horizontality, as with other meditative practices, which at best serve to establish a mediocre balance of the systems at the ordinary low level of mind-body integration corresponding to rhythms of the ordinary thinking processes and their correlative breath patterns. With the practice of breath retention, the spine is galvanized, filled with an electrifying, though calming and balancing energy which stimulates the volitional centers to a positive presence and active participation, rather than leaving the spine and volitional axis empty, as it were, so that, in the low-energy vacuum, unwanted energies, forces, and influences can flow in on the invitation of that tepid passivity passing for the so-called meditative condition. We will now proceed to the next level of the practice of empowered meditation. We will charge up with several strong charger breaths, and as before, on the last breath of the series, we will hold, locking the inhalation at the throat and counting an appropriate interval of suspension. This time, however, as we charge up and hold our breath, we will be applying a slight pressure to the corners of our closed eyes with the thumb, forefinger, and middle finger of the right hand, unless you're left-handed, in which case it is optional as to which hand you feel most comfortable with in this practice. So lift up your hand now, apply a gentle squeezing pressure directly to the corners of the eyes. Maintain this pressure as you breathe and hold your breath. Now, go ahead then and take 3 good strong charger breaths, holding the third inhalation for a count of 7. Remember to apply that gentle pressure to the corners of your eyes as you practice this phase of breath retention. Upon the 7th count, slowly, evenly, and thoroughly exhale through the mouth. Go ahead then, take 3 good strong charger breaths and hold it for a count of 7. Go ahead and begin. Sadaraku, 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 sadaraku. Remember that last exhalation should proceed slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through scarcely pursed lips. You may take your hand away from your face and relax it into its former position. It is probable that, as you did this exercise, especially if it is done as is proper for all meditation in a darkened room, you saw, up in the internal zone of the third eye at which your attention is concentrated, a network or pulsation of lights, patterns, spots, gliding geometries, or other luminous forms. You may be relatively familiar with these effects as phosphenes, the so-called pattern of entoptic lights, etc. Regardless how you believe they are explained, such lights and patterns are not simple discharges of the neurons as they're mechanically stimulated by your manually applied pressure to the optic nerve. Such lights and patterns are manifestations of the intersection between mechanical or corporeally aligned nerve networks and the systems of subtle filaments, currents, and prana or chi meridians multidimensionally converging upon and composing the cross-sectional grid of the physical field, depicted in the mirror of its own stylized configuration as an electrochemical webwork. These stimulated lights, when converged and stabilized through concentration, repetition of the name of power, and breath retention, serve as foci for the further immersion, deepening, and integration of attention with the energy fields and systems comprising higher dimensions of conscious function through the ingress of the third eye. Thus they may be used to focus and deepen the absorptive penetration of the concentrative process as your meditation progresses. Remember, it is important to remain fixed in firm, committed concentration high in the third eye center. The dots, lights, and patterns may come and go, float across your field of vision, move up and down, but you must not allow their behaviors or possible gliding trajectories to dictate or influence the integrity, the focus of your concentration. Your concentrative force should remain resolutely fixed, stably established high in the third eye center, at an imaginary point of focus. Its power should, if anything, influence the emergent patterns and lights to fix, at least momentarily, at the convergence point of the third eye center. Never, in any case, allow them to distract you, even if they exhibit independent behavior. If they will not follow the flow of your resolutely fixed concentration, let them wander where they may, but do not follow or allow your own attention to drift on the charm or luminous attraction of these sometimes splendid and complex geometries. Go ahead then and take 3 good strong charger breaths once again, holding the third inhalation for a count of 14 this time, and remember to apply that gentle pressure to the corner of your eyes as you practice this phase of breath retention. Upon the 14th count, remember, slowly, evenly, and thoroughly exhale through the mouth. Go ahead then and take those 3 good strong charger breaths, holding for a count of 14. Begin. Sadaraku, 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 sadaraku. Remember, the last exhalation should always proceed slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through scarcely pursed lips. Now I'd like you to take 3 more good strong charger breaths, this time holding that third inhalation for a count of 21, or as far up to 21 as you can manage. Remember to apply that gentle pressure to the corners of your eyes as you practice this phase of breath retention. Upon the 21st count, slowly, evenly, and thoroughly exhale through the mouth. So go ahead and take those 3 good strong charger breaths, holding this time for a count of 21. Go ahead and begin. Sadaraku, 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 sadaraku. Remember that last exhalation should proceed slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through the mouth. Now we will increase the number of charger breaths and work up again the escalating rungs of the breath retention ladder, going from our low count of 7 to a practice high count of 21. Go ahead then and take 7 good strong charger breaths, holding the third inhalation for a count of 7. Remember to apply that gentle pressure to the corners of your eyes as you practice this phase of breath retention. Upon the 7th count, slowly, evenly, and thoroughly exhale through the mouth. So go ahead and take those 7 good strong charger breaths, holding the third inhalation for a count of 7. Go ahead and begin. Sadaraku, 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 sadaraku. Remember to allow that last exhalation to proceed slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through scarcely pursed lips. What I'd like you to do now is take 7 good strong charger breaths, holding the third inhalation for a count of 14. Remember to apply that gentle pressure to the corners of your eyes as you practice this phase of breath retention. Upon the 7th count, slowly, evenly, and thoroughly exhale through the mouth. Go ahead then and take those 7 good strong charger breaths, holding the third inhalation for a count of 14. Go ahead and begin. Sadaraku, 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 sadaraku. Remember to allow that last exhalation to escape slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through the tiny labial aperture. Now I'd like you to take 7 good strong charger breaths once again, holding the third inhalation this time for a count of 21, or as far up to 21 as you can manage. Remember to apply that gentle pressure to the corners of your eyes as you practice this phase of breath retention. Upon the 21st count, slowly, evenly, and thoroughly exhale through the mouth. Go ahead then and take those 7 good strong charger breaths, holding the third inhalation for a count of 21. Begin. Sadaraku, 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 sadaraku. Remember to exhale slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through the mouth on that last expiration. For the final phase of our meditative practice, we will return to the instruction of Step 3, that of visualizing the electric blue dot at the third eye center. Imagine that there appears at the focal center of the interior third eye zone a bright blue-white dot, very small, beady, but brilliant, of an electrical luster. If you need to obtain your imagined color value from memory or quasi-memory, remember to imagine what a neon blue light would look like. There's also the quality of fiery blue-white obtained from the gas jet of an oven, or the blue electric flame that appears when rubbing alcohol is ignited in a bowl. Charge the visualized blue dot with 3 good strong charger breaths. Go ahead and begin. Remember, always allow that last exhalation to escape slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through scarcely pursed lips. Now we're going to take 3 good strong charger breaths once again. With each breath, we will enhance the light and intensity of our minute visualized electric blue dot, progressively expanding it as if it were swelling with energy and power until, upon the 3rd breath, it shall have expanded in size to an electric blue circle, completely filling the interior region of the 3rd eye center, above the brows and behind the forehead. This portion of the visualization practice is an exercise in imaginative regulation. You should visualize the expansion of the dot into the brilliant circular form as smoothly and evenly as possible with each successive breath. Once again, remember, this may not come particularly easy to some students of this practice. Do the best you can. Some students suggest that they feel the dot or expanded radiant electric blue disc more than actually see it with the eye of imagination. This is fine, but remember that this is specifically a visualization exercise. Practice seeing the dot, inwardly perceiving its vivid electric blue presence, expanding procedurally into its area-filling disc shape. When not in this formal eyes-closed meditation practice, you should rehearse your inward visualization exercise by painting a bright blue dot and similar disc on a piece of paper. You should stare at these forms, remember, one at a time, absorb their shape and color, alternately close your eyes, and try to see them inwardly. Another effective method of securing the imagistic powers of your imaginative visualization faculty, which may presently be relatively dormant, is to paint an orange dot and disc on a clean white sheet of paper, stare at either image for a minute or two, and then either shift your gaze open-eyed to a blank white wall, or close your eyes immediately and shift your attention up to the inner 3rd eye center, even pressing your eyelids together as you do so. In either case, the orange dot or disc should now be exhibiting its complementary blue color to the interiority of your vision as a lingering after image. Go ahead then and take 3 good strong charger breaths, imaginatively visualizing the progressive, vivified expansion of the dot into a full, brilliant electric blue disc. Go ahead and begin. Remember, always allow that last exhalation to proceed slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through the tiny labial aperture. You should now be visualizing the dot expanded into a radiant, energy-filled disc completely covering the interior 3rd eye zone. What I'd like you to do now is charge up the full image of that disc with 3 good strong charger breaths. Go ahead and begin. Remember, always allow that last exhalation to proceed slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through scarcely pursed lips. I'd like you to charge that brilliant electric blue disc with 3 good strong charger breaths once again. Go ahead and begin. Always allow that last exhalation to proceed slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through the mouth. Now we're going to charge the radiant blue disc imaginatively visualized at the 3rd eye center with 3 good strong charger breaths once again. Only now we will reverse the procedure by which the dot progressively expanded into the disc, by methodically reducing the disc with each successive breath until, upon the last breath, it has been restored to its original form as the minute, brilliant electric blue dot, situated like a small scintillant pearl or bead of water at the 3rd eye center. Visualize the restored electric blue dot as clearly, stably, and intensely as possible. Remember, this is an exercise in imaginative regulation. We are training the faculties of visualization to inwardly see an imagined form or shape, to perceive it as it responds to our intent or energized will force in methodically expanding or contracting in size, etc. Now then, visualize the progressive reduction of the disc to its original minute form as the electric blue dot with each successive charger breath. Go ahead and begin. Remember, always allow that last exhalation to escape slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through the lips. You should now be sitting, eyes closed, spine nice and straight, head facing frontally and squarely, arms, legs, shoulders, abdomen, and facial muscles relaxed. The retained image of the electric blue dot imaginatively projected in the field of your inward attention at the third eye center. Remember, this is the practice in creatively visualizing. It's an exercise which positively employs the faculty of imagination. It is possible that, as you progress, real images, colors, shapes, geometries, patterns, and forms of the type mechanically produced in the portion of practice in which you applied gentle manual pressure to the corners of your lids will appear very vividly to your inward gaze at the third eye center. And these will not have come at the willed bidding of your imaginative faculty. You may even perceive inwardly an actual electric blue dot at the third eye center, which neither comes or goes at the strict bidding of your imagination, but which may seem to shift around, disappear, fade, or reappear as you try to focus on it with your inner gaze. Regardless whether this or any other such light, form, or colored pattern appears at the locus of the third eye visualization center, during the formal phase of the practice, in which you're supposed to be creatively visualizing the electric blue dot through the power of will, you should never simply abandon your deliberate imagizing of the dot for what seems like the much easier method of simply gazing at the real one as it appears at the third eye center. Whatever color, shape, or form spontaneously appears at the third eye center, you should always persist during the formal phase of visualization practice in retaining the willed, imaginative image of the electric blue dot or disc. Now take 3 good, strong charger breaths, and with each successive breath imagine that the inner electric blue dot fades progressively, until on the final exhalation of the last breath, it is imaginatively perceived to extinguish completely like an expired blue candle flame. Go ahead and begin. Remember, always allow that last exhalation to proceed slowly, evenly, and thoroughly through scarcely pursed lips. This is the formal ending of your meditative practice. When the blue dot vanishes from your inner creative vision, you may slowly open your eyes and end repetition of the name of power. Remember, always come out of meditation slowly, easily, in a relaxed and alert manner. Get up from your chair slowly. Stretch, relax. Look around. How do you feel? What is different? Notice as you proceed during the ordinary course of your day how much and for how long things have been changed, inside and out. After about a month of practicing with and sharpening your inner visualization faculties on the blue dot meditation phase, you should proceed with the permanent substitution of the 5-pointed star figure. You should visualize it exactly as drawn in the accompanying booklet. You should imagine its rays as rendered in vivid electric blue light, glowing with a neon radiance. Always draw the 5-pointed figure, beginning every time from the bottom left-hand ray and around. You should attempt to perceive the 5-pointed star with the inner vision in all its rays, angles, lines, and segments as completely, stably, and thoroughly as possible once it is fully drawn out. This, remember, is a practice. You are not expected to be able to do this perfectly or even moderately well. What you are expected to do is try to visualize the 5-pointed star with as much sincere effort and will force as possible. The successful accomplishment of being able to actually and stably project the whole figure at once in the imagination is often the work of many years, even for those who are good at visualizations. This practice may be reinforced and aided by the same kinds of exercise outside the framework of formal meditation as were suggested in relation to accurately visualizing the image of the blue dot. That is, draw the five-pointed star often. Study it with your physical eyes. Notice the pentagonal figure formed at the convergence point of its extended rays, for instance. Render it in the appropriate electric blue color with paints, or in its complementary orange color, so that you can obtain an impressional after-image against a blank white wall or behind closed eyes. Read the text of the accompanying booklet to learn the significance of the five-pointed star and its importance in your meditative practice. With this description, you will recognize and understand the deep wisdom of its incorporation in your practice and the powerful transformative force it embodies. May your empowered meditation practice bring the peace, happiness, energy, awareness, and awakening which is your birthright.